Hey everyone, my name is Blake Eastman, founder of the Nonverbal Group, and today I'm going to tackle one of my most frequently asked questions, which is how to get rid of those pesky vocal fillers, those ums and uhs and likes that if you have a lot of them, I know you can't stand it when you hear yourself using them. But first, let me say completely eliminating them is terrible advice. They have a critical role in communication. The trick is understanding how to control their use. So in this video, we are going to dive into the nuances of this aspect of language, learn when and where they should be used, how to reduce them, their source, and finally some tips to make you a more effective communicator. Okay, now before we dive in, first let's get clear on what we are talking about when I say vocal fillers. A vocal filler is a word that doesn't add any actual information to what you're trying to communicate. It fills space and occupies time, but doesn't add information. However, the key distinction here is just because that they don't add any info, it doesn't mean they still can't add value. The most common and pure examples are and but you also see, you know, basically, literally, seriously, well, anyway, I mean, sort of, kind of, right, okay, and even curse words. I was born and raised in New York City, where saying things like, I'm going to the store wasn't that weird. You can also have phrases as fillers. This is a statement someone repeats over and over again. If you watch my videos over time, you're going to see some of mine. One of my favorites used to be the fact of the matter is. I would do a 10-minute video and say the fact of the matter is 20 times. Now, before we learn to wield the power of these vocal fillers, I have 5 key points about them that will really change how you understand them. So first, how you want to be perceived in the world is a personal choice. If you want to come across as this hyper thoughtful, really profound, high level intellectual communicator, that is a lot different than wanting to be enthusiastic, natural, and relatable. Ideally, you have enough range to vary between the two, but for now, just understand that vocal fillers are a piece of the puzzle of perception. And when you learn to increase or reduce their use, you can influence how your message is perceived. You should strive for awareness, control, and reduction as opposed to just complete elimination. 2, you hear them more if you're self-conscious about them. So I once did a 3-hour presentation called Body Language Explained to around 70 people in my office in New York. And I asked everybody at the end of the workshop, I said, listen, how many vocal fillers do you think I used in that 3-hour presentation? We're gonna go back and we're gonna count them to actually see. And people said numbers like 5, 10, 25. One person raised their hand and said, you use the word like a lot, and I know because I'm self-conscious about the word like, but most people thought between the 5 and sort of 30 range. In reality, I used upwards of 150 vocal fillers over the course of those 3 hours. So it's something that if your perception or your perspective is really focused on them, you're gonna notice them way, way, way more. 3, a couple here and there don't matter as much as people think they do, except when they are very noticeable, which happens when they are condensed and are almost back to back. For example, 3 vocal fillers in a sentence or 10 in 45 seconds of speech. If you just start going, like, I'm not so sure, it's obviously way more noticeable. They are also noticed in speakers with less movement and vocal variability. If you have a lot of range in your speed and energy and you move around a lot, you can get away with vocal filler murder. The fillers are masked in all the movement you are creating and less noticeable. 4th, every single word that leaves your mouth first fits into a larger context. And fillers do have a powerful place in social dynamics. For example, my wife can ask me, what's for dinner? And I can say, I don't know. Or, I don't know. While the is not fully necessary from an information perspective, it can soften the I don't know. 5th, be very careful when you try to mimic the language patterns of really good speakers or people on YouTube. In our fast-paced society, a lot of speech is edited and people cut out the fillers so they sound super concise, but in reality, they said like and 24 times. Even when I write scripts for myself, this video, for example, is partially scripted. I leave the vocal fillers in because I want to sound like I actually speak. I promise you, as you watch more videos on this channel, you will like the videos of me that are less scripted and display more of my personality. Part of that personality is imperfection in the way I look away from the camera, my odd word usage, crazy hand movements I make. With those points in mind, let's discuss where they come from, and really 4 areas. So 1 is a lack of clarity or not knowing your intention. You don't really know what you're saying, so you're more likely to fill the air with just nonsense. 2, anxiety. 3, just a function of habit. Sometimes we say things and there isn't this really deep rhyme or reason on why we say what we say. It's just something that we're used to doing. And 4th, and probably most importantly, is cognition. So when interacting with people and forming sentences, we all have different speeds at which we can do that. Some people have a difficult time in social interactions, and when they're sitting down with a group of 5 people, it's very cognitively demanding. Other people, it's effortless. And sometimes the cognition, we're literally thinking about what's going to happen next, but we want to fill the space with something. So we go, I'm not really sure, instead of I'm not really sure, because we're uncomfortable with that delay in or the absence of information in that time period. So these 4 things are usually combined to create vocal fillers. And you will find that maybe in situations where you're less socially anxious, you have less fillers. Or in situations where you have way more intention and you're way more focused on what you're saying, they reduce. You want to understand the pattern of how these 4 come together. Okay, so that in mind, I'm going to give you 5 tactics to go over, but make sure as you use these tactics, you're thinking about the overall source or reasons why you may have these vocal fillers. 1, use behavioral shifts to enrich a filler. And this is the thing, if you are so focused on just the words that are leaving your mouth, it's often difficult to tap into the raw enthusiasm and the aspects that make you you. But if you pair a word with a behavior contextually, it makes sense. For example, if you asked me a question and I looked at you and went, I'm not sure, it's a lot different than saying, I'm not sure. The looking down and the behavior is in alignment with the contemplation is going to make that filler more of a natural part of speech. 2, increase your awareness. Listen to yourself with headphones while speaking and edit yourself. When I do this for myself, I don't always remove every vocal filler, but sometimes I just say things that don't move the conversation forward and add absolutely no value. For example, I say so on and so forth for absolutely no reason, and wouldn't have had that insight if I wasn't actually listening to my own voice. Once you understand the words or phrases that you use, write them down, and I promise you that just by writing them down, you'll reduce it by at least 50%. 3, focus on creating short sprints of intention. So set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes and focus on being clear about what you're about to say. So for example, right now I am focusing on every single word that is leaving my mouth. I'm going to make sure that I don't use any vocal fillers, and even though this makes no sense right now, I am focusing on the intention and sequence of the words. That's an example of what I'm saying. Now, ideally, you're going to want to do that within the scope of how you normally communicate, but just as long as you do this for 5 to 10 minutes, it'll get you really aware and really present to every single word you say and how you say them. 4, if you slow down, you will reduce fillers. That being said, I'm not one of those people that believe speech should always be controlled and measured. I love people's frantic enthusiasm or passion and really enjoy all the variability in communication. A big tenet that I will say over and over again is that the best communicators have a lot of range, and you should always be developing and expanding your range. But if you have a lot of fillers, try slowing down. You will find that a lot of likes and uhs come from that frantic energy. 5, write more. Writing has an incredible impact on the clarity of your ideas, and I find writing to continually be a phenomenal way to improve the clarity of your communication. The process of actually having to elaborate on your ideas and then immediately getting to read them very quickly shows you where you're clear, where you have intention, and when you don't. So, that being said, I hope this was helpful. I hope you noticed all the little vocal fillers that I use in this video. And also, even in these videos, it's very difficult for me to strike this balance, or maybe not very difficult, but I am working on striking this balance of clarity and focus and intent and value to you, and at the same time, bringing my personality into it. So right now, I'm just having a conversation with you. I'm not reading off anything. This isn't structured. This isn't scripted. And in that, I'm going to have more fillers. I'm going to have more breaks. I'm going to have all these different things. But like, for example, this video is like a reality. I got up and down like 8 times because this teleprompter wasn't freaking working and constantly making problems throughout this video. So like I came across as very clear and very concise and very focused because I'm reading off of a damn teleprompter. And 90% of my communication is not that. So I'm really curious to show you in this channel how my communication style evolves and how I'm able to nail something that is both valuable to you, but at the same time, not wasting your time and energy. So yeah, follow me along the journey, like, comment, subscribe. Any questions at all, please post below and let me know.